As we commemorate International Holocaust Remembrance Day this coming Saturday, January 27th, we're opening the pages of a powerful narrative of hope, courage, family, and the triumph of the human spirit. Dr. Audrey Birnbaum is the author of American Wolf: From Nazi Refugee to American Spy. We're so honored to welcome you, Dr. Birnbaum.
Thank you so much for having me, Desiree.
Of course. So I wanted to start off and ask you, what inspired you to write this book, American Wolf?
So I was really fortunate because my father, who unfortunately died in 2018, left about 350 pages of really detailed notes about his whole life experience growing up in Nazi Germany in Berlin. And we've uncovered these notes after his death, and they were just absolutely riveting. So I didn't get to deal with him till, as you mentioned, I'm a physician, I'm a pediatrician, and after I left medicine in 2020, I had time to look through these notes and found a story that just had just tremendous breadth and something that I think like everybody could really identify with. Just it's just a captivating story of escape, survival, national identity, prejudice, love, and at the very root of it, my favorite part, dysfunctional family, which, who doesn't want to read about that?
I think that's something we can all relate to when we're talking about dysfunctional families. But could you tell us a little bit, give us a glimpse into the narrative of American Wolf and the journey it explores?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a different journey than people think about when they think about the Holocaust. Usually, right away, they think about concentration camps and Auschwitz, but this was more about trying to get out of Germany and hitting obstacles every step of the way. Some of the obstacles that they hit were actually, trying to get a visa to anywhere. Eventually, they did get a visa to the U.S., but the U.S. was really resistant, and really, it was just very, very hard to emigrate. And the resistance was intentional. There were directives to delay and postpone, and so they hit all of these obstacles that seemed bureaucratic, and they thought it was just just dysfunction and indifference, but it was actually intentional. And when they finally got their visas and they traveled they had to find a neutral country to leave from because it was already in the heart of the war. It was 1941. They then hit like physical barriers to their departure, and their visas expired and they couldn't get onto a boat with an expired visa. So they had to figure out a way to sneak onto a ship, and they eventually ended up on the very last ship that was allowed to leave Europe. And the ship itself was referred to as a floating concentration camp because the conditions were so horrible. But then when they got here, the immigration process itself and the transition to life in the U.S., what I found that was most unusual was how difficult it was once they were here, that it wasn't a bed of roses at all. And they continued to face a lot of prejudice and difficulty here in the U.S. But then it turns into an interesting spy story. So, because my father went back to Germany as a intelligence officer stationed in East Germany. So
Oh.
there's lots of little bits of the story that are exciting and usual, some sad, but a little something for everyone.
Yeah, and I mean, when you found these notes from your father, did you know about these stories, or was this a new discovery for yourself about your family history?
Some of it I knew. I knew that he grew up in Germany. I knew that he escaped, but some of it I didn't know. All the losses that he incurred, especially here. I think some of what happened here in this country, how they tried to like build up a life and how it all came crumbling down, how many things he lost, how many friends he lost. Those were really, you know, mind opening, and I think it explains some of the personality difficulties that we had in our own dysfunctional family here. So that was very enlightening, and made it easier for me to understand him. When I was writing the book, I felt like I was communing with him at the time that I was writing it. And I wrote the book in his voice because it was his story. But a lot of times I felt like I was him, kind of living the experience, which was really unusual. And the book, by the way, is not a sad book. Your first segment was on humor, and I just want to clarify that it is actually there's a lot of humor in the book, and it does not feel it's not a downer at all, even though it is about the Holocaust experience.
Yeah, and what do you hope people will take away from this extraordinary story when they get a chance to open it and read it?
It is part of it is like it is educational. It is like an enlightenment of the of that specific period in time, which I think is good to learn about. And it is, of course, as I said, a universal story. So you feel something when you read it, which is, what's the point of reading a book if you're not going to feel something? But I think, specifically because it is, International Holocaust Remembrance Day, I do think that unless you experience these stories and remember them,
Yeah.
there is no other way to protect yourself from repeating history without remembering what was done at that time. And that's true of all aspects of human history,
Audrey, I'm
because
going to let viewers know where they
humans
can
are the
get your
same.
book
And when
before we
that,
have to go.
yeah,
You can learn more by going to
yeah, absolutely.
audreybirnbaumauthor.com. And you can purchase American Wolf wherever books are sold. We'll see you tomorrow.